Hi, I'm Representative Alana Rubel, the House Democratic leader, and this is the Democratic Debrief, where we fill you in on what's happening at the Statehouse this week. Very important stuff you need to know about, particularly in the area of voter suppression. We've talked to you previously about some of the bills that have already made their way through the House regarding ballot collection bans and restrictions on unaffiliated voters voting in primaries. What came through yesterday is far more sinister than anything we've reported to you to date. There were two bills that passed through House State Affairs yesterday that are severe restrictions on voting. One was House Bill 693, brought to us by Representative Priscilla Giddings. You may remember her from that whole ethics investigation regarding the doxing of an intern. This bill would ban all ballot drop boxes. So if you had an absentee ballot near an election, the only way you could get it in would be by mailing it, and it may or may not get there in time, I guess, or you could try to get to a county clerk personally. This was opposed by just about everybody who testified, including numerous county clerks. One county clerk said it would require voters to drive an extra 70 miles to be able to vote. It's really problematic. I think it will make it very difficult for people to effectively use the absentee ballot process. The other one is even scarier. It's House Bill 692, brought to us by Representative Dorothy Moon, who is running to be Secretary of State, to be head of all elections in Idaho. This bill would prohibit the use of student IDs to register to vote, making it far more difficult for college students to participate in elections and vote. But as I look at the proof of residency requirements, I think it would preclude many thousands of young people in Idaho from voting. It only allows 5 permissible types of proof of address. Now, under the existing law previously, you could use any piece of mail, any legitimate piece of mail to prove your address. Under this new law, it would only allow these 5 things that I think most young people wouldn't have. In fact, I think under this bill, I'm not sure my kids would be able to vote. You would have to have a utility bill in your name, something that most young people, certainly those who live with their parents or on dorms, would not have. A current residential lease agreement in your name, which again, most young people wouldn't have. A W-2, some young people might have that, so I guess young people who are employed would be able to vote, but pretty much not others. A military leave and earnings statement, not something young people outside of the military would have, or a government record showing that the individual has paid property taxes. I do not know any 18, 19, or 20-year-olds who have paid property taxes in their own name. I bet you don't either. So this is mass disenfranchisement of young people. I hope you will speak forcefully against these bills. House Bill, again, 692 and 693. I suspect they're going to go through the House soon, but there will be public opportunity to testify in the Senate State Affairs Committee. Other things that happened, I'm going to spice it up with a little good news. On education, we had a couple wins in the last day or two. In fact, just today on the floor, we killed a bill that would have required drug testing for substitute teachers, which I think many saw as almost insulting to substitute teachers, an area which we have a difficult enough time recruiting already. We also beat back the vouchers bill, which would have siphoned off public dollars to go to private schools. And that got defeated by 1 vote in committee, thanks to the votes of all of our Democratic members on the committee. The majority of Republicans on the committee did vote for vouchers, but we were able to kill it with our votes. So that was great news for public education. Other things, we are waiting for a full House hearing on House Bill 675, which is in House State Affairs. That is the bill that would ban all gender confirmation treatment for people under 18. So that would include puberty blockers, hormone treatments, gender reassignment surgery. I have friends with transgender children, and they have found these treatments to be life-saving for their children, and banning them and making them a crime really is an assault on transgender kids and their mental and physical well-being. Other things that we're still waiting for the introduction of that bill that would raise the sales tax to 8%. So we'll fill you in more. I know it's coming, but for some reason they're holding off on deploying it yet. The higher education budget is the other big item that's in the works. The Joint Finance and Appropriations Committee did approve the release of a higher education budget that would be an 8% increase. It would freeze tuition. The only catch with it is that instead of funding it out of regular budget funds, they're funding a bunch of it out of the Higher Education Stabilization Fund, or the not so catchy HESF. The problem with this is that that's supposed to be a rainy day fund that you tap when you're in a recession. So it's a little questionable to be using it when we're in boom times. But I think that was the only measure they could get to that had bipartisan support and that would keep our universities free from having to cut budgets. That is the news from this end. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Good afternoon. This is Senator Michelle Stennett, the Democratic leader in the Senate, and welcome back to our end of the week. The theme this week is how little the legislature sees the need for vital services within the state, that we are trying to give incentive programs for our nurses, for doctors, for veterinarians, for teachers. And it is a heavy lift in this legislature, even though it impacts our healthcare, our food systems, our economy. I had a bill today in our agricultural committee that was trying to give some kind of incentive for rural veterinarians, which we are in dire need of in this state. As we know that agriculture is one of the highest producing economic drivers within the state. And I had all the support of the Farm Bureau and the food producers and cattlemen, dairymen, wool growers, Department of Agriculture, and the committee did not see the importance of it, and it failed in committee. Similarly, we had a bill for rural nurses. We do know that we have the least amount of healthcare providers per capita in the nation, and an ever-increasing demand with the growth. And a similar bill that was trying to incentivize nurses to come to our state failed. We have been working on these sorts of things to make sure that we have no hospitals or training centers for many of these services, and we're highly competitive with the other states that are also realizing shortages, that are the only way we're going to be able to encourage people to come and help in our ag and healthcare sectors is to make sure that we offer programs that incentivize them to come. None of these had a very high price tag. They were all very, very strict in what it was to be able to have them be applicants. But unfortunately, the legislature doesn't see the importance of them. As we go forward, we are in our end of our first week of March, and they still insist that we will be done by the end of March, and we have not begun to see appropriations or balanced a budget. So hopefully, we will start gaining traction on some of this work and not go too late into April to try to get our work done. And in the meantime, they should be doing what it is that we asked them to do as far as property tax relief and circuit breaker. Stop playing turf on both sides of the houses over these bills and actually get something meaningful done. So we will keep you posted. Have a wonderful weekend, and thank you for listening.